Okay, well, I'm in the fortunate position now of my activism and my paid work are, one and the same. And I work here at the LGBTQ Parenting Network in Toronto at Sherbourne Health Centre. And it's really great for me because it's a good fit in terms of my personal interests and my professional interests. In the past, I did community activist work around parenting and issues related to queer parenting, and particularly around trans parenting. And then when this job came around, someone sent me the posting, and I said, "This is amazing. This is exactly what I do." And it linked up with my qualifications and skills. And then 2 years later, here I am. So so my work is around building resources and education and support activities for LGBTQ parents. Our focus is on Toronto and our immediate surroundings, but we do serve people across the province. Well, for me, for example, I march in the Trans March because that's where my community is. It's a much smaller space. It's much less corporatized and much less commercialized. And also because during the Pride March and the Dyke March, I'm working. So during those times, I'm working at the Family Pride area, which is at Church Street Public School. And so we're there from 10 till 5. So we don't participate in the parade or the march, although Sherbourne Health Centre, which is our sort of larger employer, is sending a contingent in the Pride March on Sunday. And for me, the Trans March is a much smaller. In the evening. It's not as hot. So purely from a logistical perspective, I find it a much more pleasant experience to march. I also find it's more political. It is a march, whereas the parade is more of a celebration. And the trans community is not quite there yet. But I also think as people who are part of the trans community, as someone who is able-bodied and employed in an occupation where my job isn't on the line if someone sees me on TV. My boss knows I'm trans, my coworkers know I'm trans. It's not exactly a secret for me. So it's really important for me to occupy that space and be visible because I can do that safely. And I recognize that for every person like me, there's at least one other who absolutely cannot be photographed at the Trans March or be seen there because they can't disclose in their life. So for me, it's about striking that balance and being visible. I see it as an obligation to my community, and it's also important to show that trans people are real people. We're not caricatures of people. We're real people with families. I always walk with my daughter, um, and it's for trans people especially. It's too easily to be marginalized and to be dismissed as a caricature. For trans people specifically, we have a long ways to go before we reach the same level of workplace equity as gay and lesbian and bi employees. There's just not as many opportunities for trans folks. For a lot of trans folks, it's not an option not to disclose. If we're visibly trans, then it's very difficult to find a job. It's very difficult to keep a job. And then not having stable employment leads to a whole series of disadvantages in life. So not having employment leads to a lack of housing. It leads to health impacts, family impacts, personal impacts. Like it really is the key to being healthy is to have, it's a good sort of marker for being healthy in your life is to have stable employment. And I think that labor organizations can be leaders in that and show that our members, our trans members, are productive members of our companies, of our organizations, that we serve our employers well, and that we advance ourselves professionally. And so I think that if we can show that as through a union to not the non-union sector, to the corporate and private sectors who may not be unionized, if we can help our members who are trans get good job experiences, get a good employment history, especially after you transition, having a strong employment history is important. And if we can do that through a union, and then if those folks either stay in the union, stay employed in a union sector, or they use that experience to move on to a non-union sector, either way is still benefiting our members in their lives.